Happy peeps!
Healthy chats.
It's Peepschat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. I'm Janani Arifa,
I'm Shaura.
and will be your lovely host for today's episode, Peepschat Season 10, Episode 2. Alright, alhamdulillah, we are back again, everyone. So, Shaura, what we are doing here today? What are we going to be discussing on?
Right. So, have you heard of the term cancelled?
Cancel. Okay, that's a very well-known and interesting term, actually.
So, the cancel that we're talking about today is not referring to, canceling your order on Shopee or whatever. No, today's topic, we are going to be discussing how to navigate cancel culture and why it happens and what are the impacts on mental health.
Wow, that is such a very interesting, I'm not gonna lie, such an interesting topic. So with that, we bring you guys a special guest with us today, who is known as brother Zamzamil Amin Muhammad Nasir, and he's also actually a postgraduate student in Masters of Education, Guidance and Counselling of IIUM. Alhamdulillah. So how are you doing, brother Zamzamil?
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Okay, yes. How are you, Shara?
I'm great. How are you?
Okay,
Have you had your lunch,
Yes,
dinner?
yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So just now, before that, I heard a very interesting background about you. So you are actually, our special guest here today, everyone, is actually known as a certified mental health first aider. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Under the Malaysian Mental Health Association.
Yes.
Wow. So, while we are talking about this
Yep.
topic today, it's such an interesting person and knowledgeable on this particular
Definitely
topic.
fitting
Yeah,
for today's
yeah.
topic.
So, without further ado, let's dig into the first question of tonight. Okay, so we talked about cancel culture just now. We're going to be discussing on today's particular episode. So, from your point of view, Brother Zamil,
Yes.
when we're talking about cancel culture, what does it mean from your own perspective, and how does it transform over the time, especially in this generation, with all these social medias are getting hyped up and rapidly among societies?
Right.
So from your point of view, what are your thoughts on this, please?
I believe, in my opinion, that cancel culture in one form or another has always existed. So long as there has been a number of people put into groups, separating themselves, making distinctions between each other based on group, there has always been cancel culture. Because to a certain extent, when a certain voice or a certain opinion becomes too strong in the opinion of others, there is the desire to silence them. So as this is UIA, from history, I guess I would take the example of the Prophet. Of course, we know before his prophethood, he was trusted. So if you had gold, he can hold it for you. Perhaps if you want to do business, you want to do business with him. If you want to settle political disputes, you would go to him. But suddenly, when he comes out with a powerful message, one particular message, which is in disagreement with the ruling powers at the time, that one message, that one message cancels out all the other messages that he spreads to his people. Even though he holds a certain standing in the community, based on one thing, they've cancelled his entire being. Right. So I believe that's the definition of canceling someone or having cancel culture. I think that's what cancel culture does, is rather than being a bit nuanced and taking a person based on the entirety of them, you take a part of them, and based on that, they are no longer trustworthy and they should be silenced. So that's my definition.
So just like what Brother Zamin said just now, when we're talking about cancel culture, is something that one thing that it's impactful makes other people to forget other things or other messages that they have been passed on, right, Shara?
Yeah,
What do you think?
definitely. So like on that, you'd say that I think a lot of people now, given like the impact of cancel culture, like how strong it is, some people might say that it's for good, like because obviously, like you said, it picks apart like what this person's done wrong, but then obviously like sometimes one of these mistakes could be a reflection of this person's whole character. So
Correct.
what would you say to that? Do you think that cancel culture is purely negative, purely positive?
That's
do
the
you
thing. In that question itself, there's an assumption.
Yeah.
There's an assumption that I know what is right and what is wrong. For example, one of the main things in the West that is getting people cancelled is the question of how many genders there are. Okay. So my understanding, there's difference between gender and sex. But that's a nuanced opinion. Some people would say gender is a social construct. Meanwhile, sex is in regards to what is your sexual organs.
Right.
But if you have a certain opinion which goes against what is popular culture, you can be dismissed for that. Even though you have your own rationale for why you believe that thing, you can still be cancelled. And because you have that opinion, some people make the argument that you are doing something unethical. So in the first place, you are making your own moral judgment. So cancel culture is based on believing my moral judgment is superior to yours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yeah, it's not someone who I assume someone who has the tendency to want to cancel someone based on one thing that they know about them is not really open-minded to getting to know the entire nuance of their argument, of their opinion. Yeah, and it's in itself, it's you're showing your idea is better than theirs, but what is the evidence for that? Yeah.
Right. So like it's very, I guess you would say it's true. I mean, I definitely agree. It's like you're imposing your judgment to this
Exactly.
person. Like when I think good or bad is it's very subjective to each person, right? Definitely.
Yeah. So like what Shara has mentioned and also brother Zamil has mentioned, it shows that how this cancel culture actually imposed to people in telling them like whatever the mistakes, there are sometimes they might be scared to go out because of this thing surrounding them, because of the powerful, like you mentioned just now, the power terms that they might use.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about today's, we are discussing mainly on how this cancel culture might be impact on this mental health. So one of the questions that we want to know, as this cancel culture is being rapidly, I can say, in this generation, especially with this social media so around, we can know one of the social media that's very well known in this cancel culture. So can you say that this cancel culture as something that maybe say as a bullying, like the negative impact of it? Okay, so what do you say on, what do you think are the main motives actually why people are canceling something or someone?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there's two perspectives there. There is the idea that there's a bully and then there's a victim. But in my opinion, those doing the bullying are not aware that they are the bullies. For example, I mean, for an extreme example, there is Palestine and Israel. So there is always a justification for why Israel does what it does. From our perspective, maybe as Muslims or people who kind of respect international law, the idea that the oppressor is the Palestinians does not make sense at all in our reality. But on the reality of the Israelis or Zionists, I would say, they believe that they are in the right and they are justified. So social media, what it does, it amplifies opinions regardless of if it makes sense or not. And then also on top of that, in general, human beings are kind of okay with each other. But social media makes it as if we're all so different.
Yeah,
'Cause
like a different team,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like sports. But the truth is, in general, people are okay with each other, with other religions, other races. But social media makes what I would, in my opinion, is a minority voice, make it seem as if that is the voice of the majority. Yeah. So I mean, that's the danger of social media, is that there are people who are experts in certain topics. When it comes to social media, suddenly everyone has an opinion. Everyone's allowed to give an opinion. And cancel culture, when all the people who are not experts come together, somehow they have power.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that people are attracted to when it comes to cancel culture, is that, oh, let's have a target, let's all move on to this one.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you put the people as individuals, they don't really have a right to say this is worthy of canceling or not. Yeah.
Right.
They feel like they can be part of it, by just bashing on one
Yep.
person, right?
Yep.
Without
And-
knowing the actually truth
Yep.
behind that.
Yep.
So, Shara, what do you think on this matter?
Like you mentioned the word rights. So then obviously people would say like, okay, I can say what I want,
Yeah.
So like how did cancel culture really intersect with, I guess people commonly use this term, freedom of speech, like I can say what I want. I have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So how does cancel culture intersect with this?
Yeah, that's right. So in the Western world, I would say that is a contradiction that they have. But even though censorship, Malaysia probably has more censorship than in the West.
Yeah, exactly.
But the argument is being made in the West because they claim that there should be freedom of speech everywhere and anywhere. But of course, you can say what you want, but when it comes to real life, if you do say what you want, there's certain reactions that people will have, and that's not in your control.
Yeah.
The safety of social media is that no matter what you say, there's not really a response in real life. Sorry, what was the question?
Like, how does cancel culture intersect with freedom of
All
speech?
right,
Yeah.
okay. So they are two contradicting terms.
Yeah.
If you want freedom of speech, absolute freedom of speech, cancel culture should not exist because it comes with the intention to censor people. Yeah.
Because maybe people feel that they have the right on it,
Yeah.
but actually without knowing, actually it's a different situation in acting like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it makes sense because to cancel someone is you want to censor them, but then how is it freedom of speech if trying to block this person? Is that what
Yeah.
you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's such an interesting fact, to be honest, because maybe people, when they knowing about cancel culture, it's such a very easy term.
Yeah.
Well, in Malaysia we call it as what? Kecam, is it?
Yeah, good
Yeah,
job.
kecam, you know?
Okay.
Maybe people like you can say the market language, right? When they say, "Oh, she got cancelled." Okay, yay, let's be happy, you know?
Yeah.
Something
It's
that
something
they're
to celebrate.
in a team, yeah, like what you said just now, right? Like how in a team bashing just one person. So that's how
Yeah.
cancel culture is actually very a negative impact. Actually, I can say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because like then you talk about this person when they cancel someone and then the person being cancelled and like other people call you out for canceling someone, they're like, but we have freedom of speech, when actually again, as you mentioned, it
Exactly.
contradicts itself because to cancel someone is to censor someone. So these two things, it definitely contradicts one another.
So just now, like how you talked about how this freedom of speech, just now, like what
Yep.
Shara asked on cancel culture, right? So it means it shows that how freedom of speech is something that people sometimes don't understand the different definition actually.
Yeah.
You know, they think like it's cancel culture is actually a part of freedom of speech. Am I
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah. So
Oh, I guess so.
yeah, in a way.
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Cancel culture, as in, they have the right to ask you to
Yeah,
stop talking,
because
but
they
to stop talking is to limit freedom of speech. So
exactly.
a bit contradictory. Yeah. I understand.
They feel like they have the right
Yeah.
on that point. You know, they can say whatever they want.
These
Right?
two terms definitely contradict one another.
It's sometimes people might say that freedom of speech and cancel culture is actually the same thing.
Oh.
Right? Maybe you're right. Do you think so?
I've never thought of it that way.
No, as in you have the right to disagree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. But yeah.
So just now, just touched on the issue when we're talking about. Do you think that this bullying? Just now we talked about the impact of bullying, right? Towards, and then you say that how people will have a team. So do you have any examples that you want to share, like from it that's happening right now? Just now you share regarding
Right.
the
Israel and
Palestinian and
Palestine,
Israel.
Oh yeah, that was the most
Yeah,
extreme.
maybe like, maybe in
Maybe a more layman.
yeah,
a
in
deep
Well,
a
kind of
way,
thing.
the popular one, but I don't really know what the matter was, is the J.K. Rowling,
Oh, okay.
the Harry Potter
Uh-huh,
author.
uh-huh.
So they had an opinion. She had an opinion on, I think, gender roles or
Yeah.
male, female, something like that. And based on that, even though she's created this entire empire, they want to cancel her. But
Okay,
in the midst of canceling her, they are making money off her. The movies are continuing, the books are being sold,
yeah.
the series are being built around her.
So we want to hear more about that after this, but
Sure.
Don't cancel us.
Yeah.
We might have to censor you for a bit.
Let's have a short break. Actually, why not, Shara?
Yeah, quick break.
Yeah, maybe you guys can just sit back or relax for a while, grab some coffee, go to the toilet and everything, and we'll be right back after this. Happy peeps!
Healthy chats.
It's Peepschat. See you guys
soon.
after this. Happy peeps!
Healthy chats.
It's
Peeps
Peepschat, and we are back again in segment 2 for today's lovely episode. So, we're going to be continuing actually with our special guest again here. We have Brother Zamil. Okay, so just now we touched on several topics actually on our segment 1, so it was really quite interesting. So, maybe on this next question, we're going to be touching on how the social media works. You know, when we're talking about this cancel culture, it evolves around social media, right? So, what do you think from your perspective, right? Okay, when we're talking about social media, it plays such a big and significant role in the society. Okay, such a big and significant role in society. It's such a big dynamic around us. So, what in your perspective does this online environment, this online social media environment, contributes or amplifies this cancel culture situation?
Right. So whenever you ask a question about society,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, a society is only as strong as the individuals that make up that society.
Mm-hmm.
So if the individuals in your society are so connected to their phone in the sense that not the phone, I mean their
Yeah,
social media,
social media.
to the extent that their identity is predicated on what happens on social media, what happens on Instagram, what happens on Twitter. If that is the case of the members of your society, then you will have a society who is very sensitive to any topic that might come up in social media and anything that is said to them or shown to them on social media. So, if, for example, we have Instagram,
Mm.
and most people who use Instagram, they kind of see the good side of life. They look at other
Yeah.
people's life. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
my life is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
If you enter Twitter, it's a bit darker. But neither of those two extremes are reality.
Yeah.
If you have people who make what happens online the determinant of how they see reality,
Mm-hmm.
then that becomes an issue in terms of cancel culture. So if so say somebody has an opinion that they hold on Twitter
Mm-hmm.
X, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if that opinion goes against what they say and they have a strong reaction to it, uh, it's as if and if you have the urge to cancel it, it makes it as if it's an important issue, but in real life it's not really an important issue. It's just something that exists on your phone as texts.
Yeah.
But people who take these words on social media as if it affects your life, I think that's an issue. I think that may lead to a mental health issue if you are reliant on what goes on the internet. Because generally in therapy, what you're trying to do is have somebody who's dependent on how people think of them, how people react to them at work. Do my parents love me? Does my spouse love me? We're trying to make them more independent. Don't rely so much on the external factors. And I would say the phone is one of the external factors. If the phone takes so much of your life, then that's an issue and could lead to mental health issues. And also, sorry,
So
um,
please.
usually your social media is run by an algorithm in the first place. So in psychology, we have something called confirmation bias.
Okay.
Okay, so you have an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and when you seek out the truth,
Mm-hmm.
capital T, uh, the way that you're seeking the truth is you're looking at all the data, but you're only choosing the data that fits your narrative, right? So if cancel culture exists, you are removing large amounts of data from what you could be looking at. It removes it all. So in your pursuit of truth, information is blocked from you. I feel like that's an issue when it comes to cancel culture.
Yeah, so it means like what they feel that they understand on, they pin that point of view.
Yeah, as in it only sounds good if it agrees with
Yeah,
with what I believe.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Shara, you want to continue. What's on the next progress when we're talking about this cancel culture issue?
Right. So again, back to social media. Obviously, the widespread use of social media and misinformation, and like with social media, it's really easy to spread misinformation, online harassment. So how does cancel culture again play with these issues? And I think because you've touched on it briefly, but I think we'd like to hear in a bit more detail and how this cancel culture impacts an individual's mental well-being, not just for the person being canceled, but also for the person doing the canceling.
Right. So, in my opinion, so in general, there's like three stages of what we can call mental health services.
Okay.
The first one would be counseling. Then
Okay.
the next stage would be a clinical psychologist, and then the last would be a psychiatrist.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, um, Oh, sorry. What was the question again?
How does the impact of cancel culture on an individual's mental well-being?
All right. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So basically, the point I was trying to get to is that there's also stages of how you end up with a mental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the cases, if you're if you're in poverty, you're likely to have mental health issues because there's a lot of stresses that come with that. Then the next stage of that is, do you have social? Is there? Do you feel like you belong in your society? Right.
Yeah.
When it comes to cancel culture,
Okay.
I believe that it seems that in social media, something that's not true can be assumed to be true of you. So based on simply accusations,
Okay.
because of how widespread that accusation is, it's assumed to be truth. And if that assumption affects your money, your wealth, then I believe that can lead to mental health issues. Because I feel like, number one, when it comes to mental health, you're under stress if you don't have enough money. Next, if people leave you, as in based on that information, based on that widespread news, people start to alienate you. You no longer have social interaction. So that gets into the second stage of what causes mental health issues. And when you're at that point, when you're alone and you don't have really a support system, that's how social media will actually affect your day-to-day life. Because what people say about you is assumed to be true, even though it's not been proven yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the perception affects your reality.
Would you say in that sense that because okay, this is what people say about you, like it might not be true. In that sense, we've touched a bit on power. Do you think that like these people with like a weaker social support system, they rely on social media to use it as like their support system?
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it could be that you have a group on social media which is replacing your family. Okay.
I see. Okay.
And that's a significant thing to replace your own family because that's supposed to be your primary support system or your friends in real life. But then again, if your support system is online, what if the society online turns against you?
Yeah.
So you put yourself under you put your life in the control of people that you don't even know you.
Because we couldn't expect what's gonna come from them because
So,
we don't even know them, right?
and most likely you're part of that society online because you follow a certain set of opinions. Once you go out of that opinion, are you still part of that society?
Exactly.
Yeah. But when it comes to family, no matter how badly you behave or how much trouble you create, if you're lucky, I mean, maybe in most cases, your family will be loyal to you regardless because they assume the best of you. Cancel culture assumes the worst of us. You cancel them because you assume they made an error here, they're going to make errors in all other aspects of life. So cancel them. They don't need to be part of society. When it comes to your friends and family, they see the best in you, and you make a mistake here, they know you are better than this, and they push you to be better. Cancel culture does not push people to do better. It doesn't ask them to improve yourself. It kind of just, this is who you are, this is who you're always going to be, there's no solution, so I prefer you exit from our society. Which I think, if you're in the mental health industry, that is completely the wrong way of approaching human beings. Yeah.
So we have to think about our own mental health first before we want to think that we could tackle this thing around us, right? Because some people they cannot handle this, and the best way is to seek help from themselves, right?
Sure.
Exactly. And thank you very much to your brother Zamzamil just now for explaining like how does the from the perspective of just now you mentioned on counseling the stages, right? Thank you very much in sharing also, because some students might not have the knowledge on that. They might think that these three are actually the same, but they are actually some differences among the three stages, like have you mentioned just now. So when we're talking about, just now you touched on social media and everything, so do you agree that the effects of this canceling culture sometimes go beyond someone's individuals, especially in their mental health? It goes beyond how they would want to, how they want to take care of themselves. How this cancel culture can go beyond someone's individuals in mental health. So what's your point on that?
Does it go beyond the individual? Yes, I believe it does, because the way that you are assumed to be is how people will treat you. So when the persona online is made in a way where it affects the way people see you, you might lose opportunities in life, basically. Whether it's relationships or it's business, whether it's work, studies. People gossip.
Exactly.
So regardless of whether it's a good thing or not, people end up gossiping, and people accept gossip as truth sometimes, and that will really affect your life, whether or not these things are online, these things are digital, but it has
Yeah.
an effect on your actual life.
Like people the surrounding, they will know about it, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So just now we touched on that. So on your point of view also, do you believe that it has such a big impact on the individual? Just now we talked about mental health, right? But we're talking about their impact on the individual towards the society, such as when they're going to work and everything. And just you mentioned a lot about that. But how maybe you can give a bit more insight definition on that, the impact of
Sure,
mental
but my opinion is maybe a bit boring because I don't actually think social media affects the day-to-day life. I feel like it's a universe that people live in, and then once you're out of it, it's not really relevant
I see.
unless you can change policies. If social
Okay.
media change policies, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but in most cases, that's not how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can ask for counseling, but it just exists online, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But does the bullying exist?
Mm-hmm.
It does exist. If that's your whole life, it does exist. Depends on the case, individual
Okay.
cases.
So what do you think, Shara, on that point of
I
view?
guess, I mean, I wouldn't say I disagree, but then obviously because social media is so prominent, we have careers out of social
Mhm.
media. So what if, again, like you said, social media is your life,
Yeah, it
you
could
know?
be.
So then it's like a whole different scenario. It's like a different, if it's like an office worker and you're canceled online, but then you go to your job,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's fine. But then if you're an influencer,
Mm.
it
Okay,
would
yeah.
be,
I mean, the
Yeah.
issue is that I would say the issue is that you are an influencer and your whole life is that you're an
yeah.
influencer. So that's another issue to tackle.
So maybe even an influencer point. What do you point on that? Like,
Like, do you think it's a proper
yeah,
Okay,
career?
yeah.
well, I think, well, it's a money-making career. I don't know, is it a
Mhm.
proper? But if your career is based on making money based on how much attention you can get, then I think it's only fair that once you lose attention, you lose your career. I mean, your
Mm.
whole business is based on the presumption that people pay you money to create advertising for products, or that your life is so interesting that it's worth views. So when it comes to influencers, it's part of the job. If you guys consider it a real job,
Yeah.
then yeah, you can be cancelled. You're susceptible to being cancelled if your whole
Okay.
career is based on that persona.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brother Zamzamil, for this segment, Shara. So why not we take a short break, okay?
Yeah.
So let's have a sit back and chill. You guys can just wait for a while. We have a little more to go for this episode.
Okay.
Inshallah, we'll see you guys right after this. Happy peeps!
Healthy chats.
It's Peeps Chat. See you guys after this. Happy peeps!
Healthy chats.
It's Peeps Chat. Okay, Shara.
Welcome back, and we're gonna dive right into our ninth question of the night.
Okay.
So, you've touched a bit briefly on earlier about how the Israel and Palestine conflict. So, do you agree with the statement that canceling culture does not only give negative outcomes but also positive outcomes? Are there any notable examples where canceling culture has led to positive outcomes or social change?
Where it's led to positive outcomes. Well, my question maybe would be, I'll try to make it more micro. If, for example, you were to do badly in an assignment for your class, and in asking for some opinion on why you did so wrongly, if your teacher asked you because you're not smart, if your teacher just stated to you you're just not smart, what does that achieve for you?
Maybe quite hurtful a bit.
Yeah, it's only hurtful.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah.
Yes. And what is the chances that you're going to proceed with that subject?
Probably none.
If instead the teacher were to tell you, okay, you did something wrong here, how can you improve? If that was the kind of feedback you got and said, how do you feel about that assignment?
I mean, you'd definitely be more open to change.
Right.
Yeah.
So if in the process of canceling someone, all you do is tell them that what you do is wrong and we should no longer listen to you, there's no space for progress after that. So it depends on how you do it. So of course, in a way, can't boycott, divestment, sanctions of Israeli products is a way of canceling canceling Israel. But the argument is that they do 100 things wrong.
Yep.
So let's affect them in one way. There's no evidence that what they do. There's evidence that what they spend their money on is killing people. So I mean that's a very extreme example. But I feel like cancel culture in general as an answer is wrong because it doesn't give the person who's being cancelled a chance to transform and do better. In the case of Israel, I think there is a BDS. I feel does give them a chance to improve and change because we are only going to give you money. We're going to buy your products only if you change something that is objectively wrong with you. And we have explained it many times. So as long as you have the explanation, the evidence of what you're doing wrong and what you should be doing better, then I think that's okay. That is having a positive outcome. But if you close the door on progress, then I think that's how you end up with negative outcomes. Maybe even to the extent of creating even worse outcomes. Yeah. So as long as the way you speak to people is with good intentions. Yeah, I think the main thing is what is your intentions in critiquing someone, and what do you do moving forward? Are you just critiquing just because you can, or would you like to see a real change in them for the better?
Right, because like obviously it's easy to say when people give opinions. Whenever they give out these opinions, they usually just go on the bat and say, "Oh, but this is constructive criticism." You know, would you agree? Is that something that you see?
Yeah, you can say that. I mean, it depends on. You need to have an objective with your critique. Okay, you can't just give a plain opinion just for the sake of sharing your opinion. And if something is bad, tell me why. Please explain why. Don't just close the door on my face and no longer this opportunity is open to me. Yeah, that's the part of cancel culture that I disagree, is that it works towards separating people rather than bringing them together, and it's kind of closes people's mind rather than trying to get people to meet each other and explain to each other why do they disagree.
Exactly.
Like the Israel-Palestine conflict, I feel like humans in general can live beside anyone. The Arabs and Jews have been living for a long time. It's just that there's a side that doesn't want to listen to the other, and there's an overwhelmingly powerful side. They have no reason to actually give up land in a way. But what is objectively wrong, we can tell what is objectively wrong. Are the people willing to listen to it? We don't know. We need to see how time passes. I don't believe that. I would not consider boycotting as part of cancel culture, because the explanation of what is wrong has been there for decades, I would say.
Yes. So just now we touched on a lot. Actually, we talked about a lot of social medias and how does this online environment, play such a big role in this cancel culture. So now why not we go a little bit deeper into how does this cancel culture affects on mental health, individualist mental health. So now here's where it gets interesting. Actually, we want to know from your perspective as someone that is really certified under this topic, actually, regarding mental health, that someone is really knowledgeable on this thing, inshallah. Okay. So when we're talking about cancel culture, sometimes when people that face this cancellation from the society, it really affects their mental health. Do you guys agree with me? Right. Because, so from your point of view, brother Zamil, what do you think the connection between these cancel culture and individual mental well-being? It means, what are their significance? Like, how does this thing collide? Cancel culture and mental well-being, please.
Right. So mental well-being. So there is of the past maybe 100 years, there's a perspective of mental health that we should be looking at what is missing in somebody's physique, what chemicals are missing, what characteristics are missing. Are they unhappy? Are they unsatisfied? Are they depressed? Are they fearful? I am more towards what is people call positive psychology, which is more towards what are the human strengths. And I believe, in my opinion, if the human strengths in general, according to Martin Seligman, president of the American Psychological Association previously, he believes that what we should really be working on, because there seems to be a positive net effect on people, is what are the human strengths. And human strengths include hope, optimism, resilience, self-efficacy. So if I were to focus on just maybe self-efficacy and resilience, I believe if you're a resilient person, you are unlikely to be affected by whatever happens on social media and being cancelled. If you are a person who has high self-efficacy, which the definition is basically it's like having high confidence, but confidence based on your real life performance. If you have an authentic confidence in yourself, and to add to that resilience, then you can save yourself from being affected, having severe mental health issues in relation to cancel culture. But the reality is that's something that you need to build over time, because you cannot have like a false self-confidence of yourself. It needs to come from the work that you've done in real life, how you've performed in school, how you perform in work. I do feel that the people who are susceptible to being seriously affected by cancel culture are those people who have not maybe had the opportunity to develop themselves, and that they take too much, they take the voices online too seriously.
I see.
Yep. But as a reality, yes, people are going to be affected by social media. And when you have cases like that, you need to come together and find an objective. What do you and the client want to achieve in their life? So if social media, for example, makes them depressed, you would have to question why. What is the rationale of you putting so much of your heart into the social media? And beyond that, of course, there's two things that keeps people away from having some serious mental health issues. Is number one, what responsibilities do you take up in your life? Do you have a certain not position, but do you have a role in society and in your personal life that gives meaning to your life? Right. And then the other side will be, of course, what we mentioned before, the support systems. So if you have purpose in your life, you have meaning in your life, on top of that, you have these support systems, the likeliness that you fall into, number one, relying on social media in the first place, and number two, being affected by even real world events which are undesirable. When you have those two things, responsibilities and responsibilities that you voluntarily pick up, that you take upon yourself, and the support system, then in general, people will not likely fall into mental health issues. But of course, there's special cases where people just have chemical imbalances. So that's the extent of a psychiatrist. So what I was talking about before is more towards what clinical psychologists and counselors would tend to.
So it shows how some people, they might cannot accommodate that kind of things that happening in social media towards themselves, that causing them to lead to mental health issues, like what you have mentioned just now.
Because if people feel strongly about social media, that is their reality. You cannot tell them not to react strongly to it. As a counselor, you just have to accept it and try to give them advice how to move forward.
Okay, so
So touching on, obviously you mentioned your expertise on positive psychology. That's definitely the niche that you lean on more. how can individuals then actively contribute to fostering a culture that emphasizes empathy and understanding rather than one centered around the issue that we're discussing today around cancellation?
Yes.
Right. Well, maybe I mean, there's many answers to that, but perhaps answers which are more easy to digest and maybe more easy to use in your daily life for the average, for the layman, for the non-psychology students, for the non-practicing therapists, is I think what we do need to practice is something that we call unconditional positive regard. As in, if somebody is seeking your time, they want to hear your opinion, they want to share their opinion, you need to be able to listen to them without making judgment. Suspend your judgment for as long as you can and try to really listen to them.
Yes.
Don't just listen to what they say, listen to the emotions they're trying to bring out to you. So that's that for the general population. I would say that's my one advice, is that if people are seeking out help from you, that's one evidence that they are having some issues, that they're seeking out help. So when they do, just have, don't put a judgment on them too early or at all. Let them, because speaking in itself is a therapy. Because a lot of the times, people with mental health issues, if they don't have therapy, it just builds up in their head, and the issue is very complicated. But when you guys sit down and you're looking at a neutral space, for example, and you're putting everything on the table, it's a bit easier to figure out.
I totally agree on that matter of point. So, we would like to have Brother Zamzamil to have any last words that you would like to tell to our beloved IIUM students out there on our wonderful topic that we discussed on today. Such an interesting, such an insights that you have shared. So maybe last words that you would like to share with them.
Well, last words for me is that don't be so quick to judge people. Every person has their own story, their own reasoning for why they believe what they believe. No matter how extreme it seems to you, we can't assume that it's extreme to them. So when you approach people, I think you should approach them with kindness and just have the assumption that there's more to the story than what you perceive of them.
So just now, before that, I would like to know, when we're talking about cancel culture among students, right? So what do you think from your perspective just now? Like you say the last words to them, like how do they want to handle if they are being cancelled? You know, as a student, sometimes we don't have the coping mechanism to do it. So maybe a simple way that they could overtake this issue.
To detach themselves.
Yes.
Well, it depends. If you truly believe you're in the right, then, well, currently Israel is trying to cancel an entire culture, as Bassem Youssef said. If you truly believe what you believe in, then I think you should fight back for what you believe in.
I totally agree with you. Okay, so that is such a great insight and such a beautiful ending. Thank you, Brother Zamil, for being with us today, with me, Jenny, and also Shara here as the host for today's episode. Thank you very much for such a grateful insights and also such a knowledgeable thing to share with all the students out there on something that they might not really know about it. Thank you very much once again. So Shara, are we ending?
Unfortunately, I've learned a lot from tonight's discussion, but we've got to wrap things up somehow.
Okay.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I've definitely learned a lot from tonight's discussion, and definitely a new perspective that I've never thought about before.
Thank you too, Shara, for today.
Thank you for joining me. Right. So
maybe why not we have all the IM students out there to follow our...
Definitely follow all our socials, our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and also our TikTok, and don't cancel us.
Okay, that's the term right now. Okay, so with that, everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh from both of us. With that, I'm Janani.
I'm Shara.
And happy peeps.
Healthy chats.
It's Peepschat. See you guys next time.